And in the movie, Anastasia starts off as this young girl who has to flee from her Russian home because it's being invaded. And as she's fleeing, she gets separated from her family, and she hits her head, and she gets amnesia. So when she wakes up, she has no idea who she is anymore or where she came from. She ends up living on the streets, growing up in an unfamiliar place. And then about 10 years later, there's these two con men that come along, and they see this homeless girl, and they think that she resembles the Princess Anastasia that's missing. And so they think, you know what, we'll transform her, we'll pretend she's the real Anastasia, and we'll collect some money. Little do they know, and little does Anastasia know, that she really is the princess. And so they dress her up and they take her to the royal family and try to pass her off, and no one's really believing she's the princess until finally her and her grandmother get together and they start sharing stories, and all of a sudden Anastasia's memory returns and they realize she is the real princess. She is the real Anastasia. Here's the thing. Anastasia was a princess all throughout her life. She just didn't know it. She was a princess. She just didn't know it. And because she didn't know who she was, she didn't know what to do. She lived like this poor vagabond instead of the royalty that she really was. I'm afraid that there's a lot of followers of Christ that's doing the exact same thing. We're living this life like we have no idea that we are royalty, that we are kings and queens. Did you know that there's been a multitude of studies done over the years that has proven that how we view ourselves will determine to a large degree how we act and how we react? Did you get that? How we view ourselves determines to a large extent how we act and how we react. So here's the thing. If we view ourselves as a loser, we're going to end up acting like we're a loser. If we view ourselves as a victim, we're going to start allowing people to victimize us. If we view ourselves as uncreative, we're going to have a very difficult time coming up with creative ideas. If we think we can't do something, we won't be able to do it. And the opposite of that is true also. If we tend to see ourselves as successful, then we'll tend to have more successes in our life. That's why it's so important that we have a correct view of who we are. We need to be able to know who we are so we can view ourselves correctly, so we can accomplish the purpose that we're supposed to accomplish in this world. So, I'm going to ask you the same question I've been asking you for the last couple of weeks. ourselves, or waiting for someone else to come along and serve us, or even ignoring needs, or ignoring the fact that we could be serving. If we were going to be given a tutor or a trainer or a teacher to show us how to be royalty in God's family, they would for sure be teaching us that one of the things we must do is learn to serve others. Serving is our duty. It's our responsibility as kings and queens. Our royal family is to carry on the mission of King Jesus to the world. And what did he say? He said he came to serve, not to be served. And so our mission remains the same. We are here to serve and not to be served. Now, our play this weekend is called The Ultimate Server. I feel like you all should say that with me when we say The Ultimate Server. That's how thing